Excuse me. Oh. So the story goes like this. Once there was this old man, sort of like a bum or something, and he used to sit outside of this bank and he collected money. He collected money outside of the bank. A few times they tried to get rid of him, but anyway, he had his place. They didn't harm anybody. And every day before the bank closed, he would come in with a bag. He would come in with a bag, probably the money that he collected. He'd come in with a bag, and he would give the bag, and he would deposit it. He had a deposit box. He would come in, and he put the deposit box. He would put the. So they figured the guy is a little bit nuts, I mean, how much money could he collect every day? He collected $100, $50. He has to have a special box. You have to pay a lot of money for these. Anyway, that's what he had. And one day there was a strike. And that's what everybody thought this guy was. One day there was a strike. The workers, the bank workers or whatever, anyway, they went on strike. Now this man used to come every morning and he would take out this bag. He would go into the bank and he would go into the place with the safe deposit box and he would take out his bag. So everybody figured what it was, that at the end of the day, he had this money and he didn't want to take it home. And then in the beginning of the day, he would come and get the bag and he would take the money out. And maybe somehow or other he would take it home or something, or he would buy food with it or whatever he would do. Anyway, nobody paid very much attention to him. There was a strike, so he came in the morning, strike. So he asks one of the guards, I want to get in. He said, there's a strike, the doors are all closed. He said, but I have to get in, I have to get the bag. He says, listen, what do you need the bag for? Don't worry, it's safe. No one's going to touch it. No one's going to. So no, I need what's in that bag. And so he's talking to so they bring one of the workers or the manager or whatever it was, the sub-manager, the policeman, maybe it was just a policeman. So listen, I have to get that bag. So the policeman said, well, what is the problem? Why do you have to have that bag urgently? I mean, the strike will probably be over in a couple of days. Who knows? Oh, yeah, a couple of days. I have to have that bag. And so he said, listen, I'll get you another bag. It's such a big problem. I'll get you another bag. Here, we have these money bags. And he says, no. In that bag are my tefillin. And I put those tefillin on. So the policeman happened to be Jewish, wasn't a religious Jew. So he said, tefillin, I know what that is, tefillin. He said, listen, I can get you, I have a few religious friends. I can make a call and I can, ask them to bring you the, he says, no, I have to have those tefillin. I must have those tefillin. So he figures he's dealing with a nut, what's he going to do? And they won't leave him alone. Said, okay, listen, just, what can I do? I can't get them. No, I have to have the tefillin. I must have them. I must. So anyway, finally, he says, call the manager. I can't. So he sees there's a number over there. The poor man, he goes into the telephone booth or whatever. However it is, the manager is called. So the manager says, listen, I can't open the bank. I can't open the bank. First of all, I'll have to go home and get the keys. And not only that, it's against the whole entire procedure. We're on strike, and on the time of the strike, no one can go into the bank. How do I know you're not a thief? How do you know they're not working with thieves? He says, listen, I'm here every day. I need my tefillin. I have to. He says, listen, I'll get you a pair of your tefillin. I happen to know some Jews. He says, no, the policeman already said. He said, I already said that. He's making this big noise, and he's really screaming and yelling, I have to have the tefillin. So what are they going to do? They're going to arrest him, Anyway, finally it gets around to the whole entire, they have to call up to the head of the bank, the head of the whole company, and they explain the situation. Finally, it ends up they send down a whole bunch of policemen so that they guard the place, and they let him in with two policemen in the bank. They frisk him and they show that not they're guarding the door, and they let him in, and he takes out this bag and he has the tefillin. Thank you, and he's crying. Thank you very much. So they go outside and he says to I don't remember if it was to the bank manager or if it was to the policeman, or maybe it was to both of them. And so they asked him, tell us, what is so important about these tefillin? What is so important about that? I mean, there's so many pairs of tefillin you can have. You had to make all this trouble, open up, call all these police down and make so much trouble. I said, listen, I'm really sorry. And if there's a fine, I'll pay the fine. But I have to have these tefillin. He said, these tefillin were with me through the Holocaust. Oh, so everybody, the Holocaust, pretty much everybody knows what that is. Said that the Holocaust, they were with you in the Holocaust. So why do you keep them in the bank? the tefillin in the Holocaust, what do you keep them in the bank for? He said, well, it's a sort of a long story. We want to hear the story. So he said, the story is like this. I was in the Holocaust, and from Poland. I lived in Poland. The Nazis killed my whole family. They killed my mother, the father. They killed everybody. And I was in Auschwitz, but somehow or other I managed to bring my tefillin in there with me. And I stayed with the tefillin. I said the tefillin, and I put the tefillin on every day, whenever it was possible. A lot of times you could only put tefillin on in the nighttime. They would wake up people early in the morning, and the only time you had time to put on tefillin was in the night, which night is really not the time for tefillin. I mean, essentially it is, but it's not. So I would put the tefillin on in the nighttime. I put it on. Well, it ended up that there was, I guess it was they were making this sort of mix around in this, and the Satmar Rebbe. Oh, and the Satmar Rebbe was there. If you know the story of what the Satmar Rebbe, there's a whole, anyway, there was one Jew that he arranged that the Satmar Rebbe and other people would get released. I think it was from Auschwitz. Same place that they would get released. And the Satmar Rebbe had lost his tefillin the day before, or they had moved him from a place, and he heard that I had tefillin. And he wanted to put on, this is talking about Rabbi Yoel. Rabbi Yoel, I guess the previous Satmar Rebbe. So Rabbi Yoel, he was like a very, very holy person. A very holy person. He was a tremendous Talmud Chacham and a genius, and he was a Kabbalist and everything. A very, so he said he wanted to put on tefillin. One of his Chassidim came over and said the Satmar Rebbe wants to put on tefillin, and he hears that you have a pair of tefillin. He heard that he has, and he's being moved out today. And all he wants to do is just put on the tefillin and say Shema Yisrael. That's all, and he'll bring it back to you. It'll take no more than 10 minutes. I guess in all the confusion, there wasn't any danger in him bringing this tefillin. So he said, okay. So he gave him the Satmar Rebbe. He gave him the tefillin, and he ran and gave him the Rebbe. He said, in 1 minute after he left, there came to me some of the officers from the SS or whatever that were on the concentration camp, and they told me that I was being moved. And they moved me. And the Chassid came back, just like you said, and he looked for me, and I wasn't there. They moved me to a different camp. And I said, well, all the time that I was in this other camp, I didn't have any tefillin. And the Rebbe took on, I realized the Rebbe must feel really bad that he probably wanted to give me the tefillin back, and I didn't have them. But nevertheless, that's what it was. I didn't have any tefillin. And the war finished. How it was, I don't know, but I survived. And I came out and I lived in New York. I was in New York. Whether he continued putting on tefillin or not, I don't remember from the story, but nevertheless, it was in New York. I'm sorry, not New York. He moved to Israel. And he was in Israel. Did he put on tefillin anymore? Did he not put on tefillin anymore? This old fellow, anyway. So he says, Israel. One day I hear a knock on my door. I open up the door and there's a Chassid Satmar there. And he asks me if my name is such and such. And I say, yeah. He says, were you in the camp such and such? I said, yeah. He said, did you give your tefillin to the Satmar Rebbe? I said, yes, I did. He said, you know, the Satmar Rebbe, he survived, but he didn't know if you survived. And he felt so bad that he's been looking for you. This is already like 5 years, 10 years. I don't know how long it was, 10 years. He's been looking for you since, asking everyone to search for you and find you. And when he found out that you're still alive, as he immediately sent someone from America, Satmar Rebbe lived in America, he immediately sent someone by plane with your tefillin to give you the tefillin. to find you and give you the tefillin. Here, this is the tefillin. He says, these are the tefillin. He says, yes, you should know that the Satmar Rebbe, every day, he would put on these tefillin. He had his own tefillin that he prayed with, but he came to, when he got to America with the tefillin, he had them checked, and they were kosher, and every day after the prayers, he would put them on. Every day. So these are the prayers the holy Satmar Rebbe put on. Yes, it was. He said, so he gave them to me. He said he wants you to have them back. And he said he's so grateful to you that he just blesses you every day. And he feels so bad. He hopes that you'll forgive him. So he said, these tefillin are very precious to me. These tefillin were the tefillin that I wore when I was in Auschwitz. That gave me the power to continue on. And the holy Satmar Rebbe, he put them on every day. He says, therefore, these things are precious. I don't want the end to get lost or damaged. Right? So they said, well, that's really wonderful. That's amazing stuff. But tell me, why do you collect money? He said, oh, this money that I collect this money to buy tefillin for children that don't have tefillin. I go to orphanages or whatever, and schools, children that don't have tefillin, I collect this money and I give it to them. I buy tefillin for them. Anyway, a few years later, this man passed away, and he left his tefillin to either the bank manager. I have to look at the story. The bank manager, the policeman, whichever one was Jewish, and they took it on themselves. This bank manager took it on himself that he himself would collect money. I don't think he stood outside and collected, but he would also continue buying pairs of tefillin for boys that didn't have tefillin. So it shows the preciousness of tefillin and how even the turbulent waters of Auschwitz and this world couldn't quench the love that Jews had for doing Hashem's commandments. See you at 3 o'clock, God willing. God bless you all. Look forward to seeing you. Shalom.